Zara pressed her face against the cold glass of the observation deck, watching the stars blur through her tears. The viewing platform of Frontier Station 7 was supposed to be the most beautiful spot on the entire station, where travelers from 100 different worlds came to marvel at the endless cosmos. But tonight, it felt like the loneliest place in the universe. Her bioluminescent skin patterns pulsed in waves of deep purple, the Kiksari color of profound sadness. She couldn't control it, couldn't hide it even if she wanted to. Every emotion she felt painted itself across her body for anyone to see. Right now, her entire being was screaming her pain into the darkness. 16 cycles old today. 16 cycles since she'd hatched from her crystalline egg in the warm pools of her homeworld. 16 cycles since her mother had held her for the first time, singing the traditional welcoming songs in their ancient language. But her mother was gone now. Had been gone for 3 cycles. And the person who had taken her place in their family home had forgotten that today even existed. Again. The door to the observation deck hissed open behind her, and Zara quickly tried to wipe her face, though she knew her skin would betray her anyway. The purple glow didn't just disappear because she wanted it to. "Sorry, didn't mean to disturb anyone," a gentle voice said. "Just running the night maintenance checks." Zara glanced over her shoulder. A human stood there, wearing the gray uniform of the station's maintenance crew. He carried a toolkit in one hand and a portable environmental scanner in the other. His name badge read Owen in standard script. "It's okay," Zara managed to say, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I was just leaving anyway." But she didn't move. Couldn't move. Her legs felt too heavy, her heart's too broken to carry her anywhere else. Owen looked at her for a moment, then at his scanner, then back at her. He didn't say anything right away. Instead, he walked slowly to the far side of the deck and began checking the environmental controls. He worked quietly, carefully, giving her space but not abandoning the room entirely. Most beings would have either ignored her completely or demanded to know what was wrong in that pushy, invasive way that made everything worse. But this human did neither. He just existed nearby, going about his work, occasionally glancing her way with concern but never staring. After about 10 minutes of silence broken only by the soft beeps of his scanner, Owen spoke again. "You know," he said, not looking at her directly, "I've worked this station for 3 years now. Done maintenance on every deck, every shift. I've seen a lot of people looking at these stars. Happy people, sad people, lonely people, excited people. But I've never seen anyone cry quite like you're crying right now." Zara's patterns flickered slightly, shifting to include streaks of orange alongside the purple. Surprise mixed with sadness. "Usually," Owen continued, setting his scanner down and turning to face her properly, "when someone's crying that hard, it's not really about the stars they're looking at. It's about something much bigger." Something in his tone, in the genuine gentleness of his voice, made the words tumble out before Zara could stop them. "It's my hatching day," she said quietly. "Today. Right now, actually." Owen's expression shifted immediately to understanding. He didn't look confused or dismissive. He just nodded as if this information explained everything. "And you're here alone," he said softly. "On your birthday." "My stepmother forgot," Zara whispered, and saying it out loud made it feel even more real, even more painful. "She forgot again." Owen was quiet for a moment. Then he did something completely unexpected. He walked over to where Zara sat, keeping a respectful distance but close enough that she could see his face clearly, and he sat down on the floor. Just sat right down in his work uniform and made himself comfortable, as if he had all the time in the world. "Again?" he asked gently. "This isn't the first time?" Zara shook her head, her patterns swirling with complicated emotions she couldn't even name. She'd never told anyone about this. The Kiksari didn't share family problems with outsiders. It was considered shameful, a sign of weakness, a betrayal of family honor. But something about this human made her want to talk. Maybe it was because he was a stranger. Maybe it was because humans had a reputation across the galaxy for being unusually empathetic. Maybe it was just because she was so desperately lonely that anyone offering kindness felt like water in a desert. "My mother died 3 cycles ago," Zara began, her voice shaking. "She got sick very suddenly. The doctors couldn't save her. My father, he was devastated. We both were." Owen nodded, listening intently. 6 months later he remarried. Felissa. She's Kiksari too, from one of the northern territories. She has 2 children from a previous bonding. They're younger than me, 9 and 11 cycles old. And she treats them differently than she treats you, Owen said. It wasn't a question. He said it like he already knew, like he'd seen this story before. Zara's patterns flashed bright orange in surprise. How did you know that? I have 3 stepsisters back on Earth, Owen explained. My dad remarried when I was 10 years old. I know what it looks like when someone's being treated like they don't quite belong in their own family. The simple acknowledgement hit Zara like a physical force. Someone understood. Someone actually understood. She didn't forget on purpose, Zara heard herself say, though she didn't really believe it. She's just busy. With her own children. With her work. With everything else. Forgetting your birthday isn't a small thing, Owen said firmly. Especially when it matters to you. In Kiksari culture, Zara explained, her voice breaking, forgetting someone's hatching day is one of the worst insults you can give. It means they're invisible to you. It means they don't matter enough to remember. It means they're so insignificant that the day they came into the world isn't even worth marking on a calendar. She watched Owen's face harden, his jaw tightening. That's not forgetfulness, he said quietly. That's cruelty. No one had ever said it so plainly before. No one had ever called it what it actually was. My father doesn't see it, Zara continued, the words pouring out now like floodwater breaking through a dam. He's a diplomatic envoy. He travels constantly, negotiating treaties, attending conferences, representing our world at different stations and planets. When he's home, Valissa is perfect. She smiles at me. She asks about my studies. She includes me in conversations. She plays the role of the caring stepmother beautifully. But when he leaves? Owen prompted gently. I disappear, Zara whispered. I become invisible. She looks right through me like I'm not even there. Today, she took her 2 children to the station's recreation center. They had a special celebration for her son because he won an award in his studies. When I asked if I could come along, she looked at me like I'd said something ridiculous and told me it was a family event. But you are family, Owen said, and there was an edge of anger in his voice now. Not to her, Zara said, her patterns fading to a dull gray, the Kiksari color of hopelessness. To her, I'm just the leftover piece from my father's first bonding. An obligation she has to pretend to care about when he's watching. They sat in silence for a long moment, the stars spinning slowly beyond the glass. Then Owen asked a question that changed everything. Have you ever had a real birthday party? The human kind. Zara blinked at Owen's question, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to confused yellow streaks among the gray. A human birthday party? No. Why would I? I'm not human. That's not what I meant, Owen said with a gentle smile. I just meant, have you ever had a celebration where people actually wanted to celebrate you? Where it felt good instead of painful? Zara thought about it. Really thought about it. The answer made her chest ache. No, she admitted. Even before my mother died, hatching day celebrations were always formal. Traditional. We'd light the ceremonial flames, say the ancient words, eat specific foods in a specific order. It was nice, but it was more about following tradition than about me. Owen nodded slowly, like he was piecing something together in his mind. Tell me about Valissa, he said. Not just about today. About everything. If you want to, Sometimes it helps to say things out loud. And so Zara talked. Once she started, she couldn't seem to stop. She told Owen about the first time she'd met Valissa, just 6 months after her mother's death. Her father had brought this stranger into their home and announced they would be bonding in a traditional ceremony within weeks. Zara had still been numb with grief, barely able to process that her mother was gone, and suddenly there was this new person taking her mother's place. At first I thought maybe it would be okay, Zara said, her patterns shifting through memories of hope and disappointment. Valissa was kind to me those first few weeks. She'd ask about school, help me with my homework, even braid my head tendrils the way my mother used to. What changed? Owen asked quietly. The bonding ceremony happened. She moved in completely. Her children came to live with us. And suddenly, Zara struggled to find the right words. It was like I'd served my purpose. I'd accepted her, made the transition smooth for my father, and now she didn't need to pretend anymore. She described how Valissa would make breakfast for her own 2 children every morning, their favorite foods perfectly prepared. But Zara had to prepare her own meal or go hungry. How Valissa would spend hours helping her son and daughter with their studies, sitting with them, encouraging them, praising their work. But when Zara asked for help, Valissa would be suddenly busy or tired, or would tell Zara she was old enough to figure things out herself. It's the little things, Zara explained, her voice soft. Things so small that if I tried to explain them to my father, they'd sound petty. Like she'd buy new clothes for her children but tell me we couldn't afford anything for me right now. Or she'd take them on outings to the entertainment district but say I had too much homework to come along. Or she'd praise them for getting average grades while ignoring when I got top marks in my class. Owen's expression grew darker as she spoke, but he didn't interrupt. He just listened with complete attention, his eyes never leaving her face. The worst part, Zara continued, is that she's not cruel. Not in any obvious way. She never yells at me or hits me or says horrible things. She just erases me. Makes me feel like I'm not really part of the family. Like I'm a guest who's overstayed her welcome. That is cruel, Owen said firmly. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's not cruel. Zara felt something tight in her chest loosen at those words. Someone believed her. Someone understood that pain didn't have to be loud to be real. She told Owen about last year's hatching day, when Valissa had remembered but had given Zara a gift clearly meant for someone else. A toy designed for children half her age. She told him about family dinners where Valissa would ask her own children detailed questions about their day but would never even look at Zara. She told him about the time she'd won a major academic competition and had come home excited to share the news, only to find Valissa throwing a party for her daughter's minor achievement while barely acknowledging Zara's success. "Where was your father during all this?" Owen asked. "Working," Zara said, and there was no bitterness in her voice, just sadness. "Always working. He's not a bad father. He loves me. I know he does. But he's never home. And when he is home, Valissa transforms. She becomes this perfect, caring stepmother. She includes me, speaks to me kindly, even hugs me sometimes. My father sees that version of her and thinks everything is fine." "Have you tried to tell him?" Owen asked gently. "Once," Zara admitted. "About a year ago. I tried to explain how I felt. But Valissa was standing right there and she looked so hurt, so shocked by my accusations. She started crying, saying she tried so hard to be a good mother to me, that she loved me like her own daughter. My father, he believed her. He told me I was being unfair, that grief was making me see things that weren't there, that I needed to give Valissa a chance." "But you weren't wrong," Owen said. "It wasn't a question." "No," Zara whispered. "I wasn't wrong. But after that, I learned not to say anything. It's easier to stay quiet than to be told you're imagining your own pain." Owen was silent for a moment, and Zara worried she'd said too much. Humans were supposed to be empathetic, but maybe she'd overwhelmed him. Maybe he regretted asking. Maybe he was trying to figure out how to politely leave. But then he spoke and his words surprised her again. "You're not imagining anything," he said clearly. "What you're describing is real. It's a real pattern of behavior, real emotional neglect, real exclusion. And you deserve better than that." Zara's patterns flared bright blue, the color of grateful surprise. No one had ever validated her experience so directly before. "My stepmother did something similar to me," Owen continued. "Different details but the same feeling. Like I was tolerated instead of wanted. My dad didn't see it either. He was so happy to have found love again after my mom left that he didn't notice how his new wife treated me when he wasn't looking." "What did you do?" Zara asked. "I survived," Owen said honestly. "I found people who actually cared about me. Friends, teachers, neighbors. I built my own family out of people who chose to see me. And eventually, I got old enough to leave and build my own life." "But you shouldn't have had to just survive," Zara said, understanding flooding through her. "You should have been loved." "Exactly," Owen said. "And so should you. You shouldn't have to earn basic kindness from someone who's supposed to be your family. You shouldn't have to prove you're worth remembering. You shouldn't have to feel invisible in your own home." Zara felt tears streaming down her face again, but these were different. These weren't tears of lonely despair. These were tears of relief, of being understood, of having someone finally see her pain and confirm it was real. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." "I don't need to know everything about you to know you deserve kindness," Owen said simply. "That's just basic human decency. Or at least it should be." They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars spin slowly past the observation window. Zara felt lighter somehow, as if sharing her burden had made it less heavy to carry. Over the next 3 days, Zara noticed Owen around the station more often. He'd wave when he saw her in the corridors, ask how her day was going, remember small details she'd mentioned during their conversation. It felt strange and wonderful at the same time, having someone actually pay attention to her existence. What Zara didn't know was that Owen had been very busy during those 3 days. The morning after their conversation in the observation deck, Owen had gone straight to the human staff cafeteria during breakfast. He'd stood up in front of about 30 humans, maintenance workers, cafeteria staff, medical technicians, dock workers, and told them about a young alien girl who'd spent her birthday alone and forgotten. "I know we don't know her well," Owen had said. "Most of us probably walk past her every day without really seeing her. But she's 16 cycles old, she's lost her mother, and the person who's supposed to care for her can't even remember her birthday. I think we can do better than that." The response had been immediate and enthusiastic. Humans, Owen knew from experience, loved any excuse to throw a party. But more than that, they loved the chance to make someone feel special. Carol from the cafeteria had volunteered to research Kiksari dietary needs and bake something safe for Zara to eat. "I've got that xenobiology cookbook someone gave me last year," she'd said. "Never had a reason to use it before." Pete from Dock Operations had a daughter back on Earth around Zara's age. "Let me handle decorations," he'd offered. "I know what teenagers like." Linda from Medical had immediately started asking other staff members if they'd ever interacted with Zara. "I want to know what she's actually like," she'd explained. "Not just throw some generic party. Make it personal." And so the humans of Frontier Station 7 had quietly mobilized, working around their regular shifts to create something special. On the third day after her conversation with Owen, Zara finished her study shift at the station's educational center. She was walking back toward her family's quarters when her communication device beeped. A message from Owen. "Hey, could you stop by Community Room 7? I think I left my scanner there during maintenance and I'm on the other side of the station. Would you mind grabbing it for me?" Zara changed direction, heading toward the community rooms. It was a small request easy to fulfill. She was happy to help Owen after how kind he'd been to her. Community Room 7 was one of the smaller gathering spaces on the station, usually used for meetings or small group activities. Zara pressed the door control, expecting to find an empty room with Owen's forgotten scanner sitting on a table somewhere. Instead, the door slid open to reveal dozens of humans packed into the space, and the moment they saw her, they all started singing. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Zara, happy birthday to you." Zara froze in the doorway, her bioluminescent patterns exploding into wild colors she couldn't control. Shock white mixed with confusion yellow mixed with something else, something she couldn't identify because she'd never felt it quite this strongly before. The room was decorated with colorful streamers and balloons. A large banner hung across one wall reading, "Happy 16th Hatching Day Zara," in both standard script and Kiksari symbols. Tables along the sides held food and drinks, and in the center of everything sat a cake, an actual Earth-style birthday cake with candles burning on top. Owen stood at the front of the group, grinning widely. "Surprise," he said. I don't understand," Zara stammered, her voice barely working. "You said you'd never had a real birthday party," Owen explained, walking over to her. "So we decided to fix that. Come on, you've got to blow out the candles before they melt all over the cake." The humans parted to make a path for her, and Zara walked forward in a daze. She'd never been the center of attention like this before. Never had a room full of people looking at her with genuine happiness, with celebration, with warmth. Carol stepped forward, beaming. "The cake is made with Kiksari-safe ingredients," she explained. "No lactose, no refined sugars that would upset your digestive system, natural fruit extracts for sweetness. I checked 3 different xenobiology databases to make sure everything was safe." You researched my biology?" Zara asked, stunned. "Of course," Carol said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Couldn't throw you a birthday party and then poison you with the cake. That would be a terrible party." Several humans laughed, and Zara felt herself smiling despite the tears now streaming down her face. Her patterns had shifted to colors she'd never seen on her own skin before, brilliant golds and shimmering silvers, colors that the Kiksari emotional spectrum didn't even have names for. "Make a wish," Pete encouraged, gesturing to the candles. Zara closed her eyes, thought for a moment, and blew out all 16 candles in one breath. The humans cheered and clapped, and someone started cutting the cake while others began bringing over wrapped packages. "Presents too?" Zara asked weakly. "It's not a proper birthday without presents," Linda said, handing her the first one. "This one's from all of us in medical." Zara unwrapped it with shaking hands. Inside was a beautiful journal bound in soft material that felt wonderful against her skin, with her name embossed on the cover in elegant Kiksari script. "We noticed you're always carrying around data pads for notes," Linda explained. "But sometimes it's nice to write things by hand. Or tentacle. However you prefer to think about it." The next gift was from Pete and the dock crew, a star chart of her home system, professionally framed, with her exact hatching date and time marked at the bottom. So you never forget where you came from, Pete said softly. Carol's gift was a collection of Kiksari music recordings, including some rare traditional songs from Zara's mother's region. Owen mentioned your mom passed, Carol said gently. Thought you might like to have something that reminded you of her. Gift after gift appeared, each one thoughtful, each one showing that these humans had actually paid attention to who she was. A warm blanket in colors that complemented her natural bioluminescence. A small plant from Earth that was safe for Kiksari to touch. A device loaded with audiobooks in her language. A set of art supplies because someone had noticed her doodling during breaks. But the gift that broke her completely was the last one. Owen handed her a simple envelope. Inside were handwritten notes, dozens of them, from every human in the room. Zara read through them with tears pouring down her face, her patterns cycling through every color of joy and gratitude. I've noticed how patient you are when helping the younger kids in the education center. You're going to make a great teacher someday. Carol. You always say good morning to me when you pass the dock, even when you look tired. That kindness matters more than you know. Pete. I've seen you studying in the library late at night. Your dedication is inspiring. Keep reaching for the stars. Linda. You have the most beautiful laugh. I heard it once when you were talking with your friends. The station needs more of that sound. Someone named Greg who Zara barely remembered meeting. On and on the notes went, each one describing something someone had noticed about her, something they appreciated, something that proved they'd been seeing her all along even when she felt invisible. You actually see me, Zara whispered, looking around at the faces of these humans who barely knew her but had chosen to celebrate her anyway. Of course we see you, Owen said gently. You're not invisible, Zara. You never were. Some people just weren't looking. The party continued for 2 hours. They played games that worked across species differences. They told stories and jokes. They sang more songs, some in human languages and some that humans attempted in Kiksari with terrible pronunciation that made Zara laugh until her sides hurt. For 2 glorious hours, Zara was surrounded by people who wanted her there, who celebrated her existence, who made her feel like she mattered. Her bioluminescent patterns stayed locked in those brilliant gold and silver tones the entire time, colors of pure joy that she'd never managed to produce before and didn't even know she was capable of creating. The change in Zara didn't happen overnight, but it happened steadily. In the days following her birthday party, people around Frontier Station 7 began to notice something different about her. She walked with her head higher. Her bioluminescent patterns stayed brighter, shifting more often into confident blues and peaceful greens instead of the dull grays and sad purples she'd worn like a second skin for years. When she spoke in her classes, her voice was clearer, stronger. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. In the education center, when an instructor asked a question, Zara raised her hand instead of hiding in the back. When classmates invited her to join their study group, she said yes instead of making excuses. When she had an opinion, she shared it instead of staying silent. The humans who'd thrown her party noticed the change most of all. Owen saw her in the cafeteria one morning, sitting with a group of other young aliens, laughing freely at something someone had said. Her patterns were dancing with warm orange tones, the color of genuine happiness. He caught her eye and waved. She waved back with a huge smile. That's the girl I was telling you about, Carol said, appearing beside Owen with her breakfast tray. The one we threw the party for. Look at her. She's glowing. She is, Owen agreed, feeling a warm pride in his chest. She really is. But not everyone was happy about Zara's transformation. It was 8 days after the birthday party when Valissa appeared at the station. Zara's stepmother rarely visited her at Frontier 7. The station was where Zara studied and lived during the academic term, while her family quarters were on a different station entirely where her father was stationed for his diplomatic work. Zara was in the library working on an assignment with 2 classmates, when her communication device buzzed urgently. A message from the station administrator's office. Zara, your stepmother is here. She's requesting to see you immediately. Please come to admin level 3. Zara's patterns flickered with anxiety, shifting from calm blue to worried yellow. Her classmates noticed immediately. Everything okay? One of them asked. I don't know, Zara admitted. My stepmother is here. She never comes here. She made her way to the administrative level, her heart's beating faster with each step. When she entered the waiting area, she found Valissa standing there, and her stepmother's expression was thunderous. There you are, Valissa said sharply. We need to talk. Now. They moved to a private conference room, and the moment the door closed, Valissa turned on Zara with fury in her eyes. How dare you embarrass this family, Valissa hissed. Making humans throw you a pity party because you're too pathetic to celebrate your own hatching day properly. Do you have any idea how this makes us look? How it makes me look? Zara felt her patterns flash with shock and hurt, but underneath those familiar responses, something new was stirring. Anger. Real, justified anger. One of the other Kiksari families heard about it, Valissa continued, pacing the small room. They asked me about it at a gathering yesterday. Asked why my stepdaughter needed strangers to celebrate her because her own family couldn't be bothered. Do you understand what you've done? What I've done? Zara repeated, and her voice was steadier than she expected. I didn't ask them to throw me a party. They did it because they're kind. Because they actually pay attention to people. Because they care. They made me look negligent, Valissa snapped. You are negligent, Zara said, and the words felt like lightning leaving her mouth. She'd never spoken to Valissa this way before. Never dared. Valissa's face darkened. How dare you speak to me like that? After everything I've done for you, taken you into my home, treated you like one of my own. You've never treated me like one of your own, Zara interrupted, her patterns burning bright red now, the color of righteous fury. You forget my birthday. You ignore my achievements. You exclude me from family activities. You look through me like I'm invisible. Don't pretend this is about me embarrassing you. You're just angry that someone finally noticed how you treat me. Before Valissa could respond, the conference room door opened. Owen stood there with Carol and Pete behind him. They must have been alerted that Valissa was on the station. Is there a problem here? Owen asked calmly, his eyes moving between Zara and Valissa. This is a private family matter, Valissa said coldly. It has nothing to do with you. Actually, Owen said, stepping into the room, I think it has everything to do with me. I'm the one who organized Zara's birthday party. So if you have complaints about it, you should direct them at me, not at her. Valissa turned her full attention to Owen, her expression withering. You had no right to interfere in our family affairs. You don't know anything about our culture or our traditions. I know that forgetting a child's birthday is wrong in any culture, Owen said simply. I know that making someone feel invisible in their own family is cruel in any language. And I know that celebrating someone's existence isn't interference, it's basic human decency. Basic human decency, Valissa repeated mockingly. You humans think you're so enlightened, so compassionate. You insert yourselves where you don't belong and act like heroes. We didn't insert ourselves anywhere, Carol said, speaking up from the doorway. We saw a kid who was hurting and we did something nice for her. That's all. If that makes you feel guilty, maybe you should examine why. Valissa's mouth opened and closed, clearly unused to being challenged so directly. The party wasn't a judgment of you, Owen continued, his voice still calm but firm. It was a celebration of Zara. But if you're taking it as a criticism, then maybe there's some truth there you need to face. You have no right, Valissa started. I have every right to be kind to someone, Owen interrupted. And so does everyone else on this station. Zara deserves kindness. She deserves to be remembered. She deserves to feel valued. And if her own family won't give her those things, then yes, we will. Zara felt something shift inside her chest. These people, these humans who barely knew her, were standing up for her. Actually standing up for her. Defending her worth without hesitation. And if they believed she deserved better, then maybe she did. You're right, Zara said, her voice ringing clear in the small room. Everyone turned to look at her. Owen is right. I do deserve better. I deserve to be remembered. I deserve to be included. I deserve to matter to the people who are supposed to be my family. She looked directly at Valissa, her patterns steady and bright. You forgot my birthday again. Not by accident. Not because you were busy. You forgot because you don't care enough to remember. You take your own children to celebrations and tell me it's a family event, like I'm not family. You praise them for small things and ignore my accomplishments. You make me feel like I'm a burden you have to tolerate instead of a child you chose to accept when you bonded with my father. That's not, Valissa tried to interrupt. Yes, it is, Zara said firmly. And I'm done pretending it isn't. I'm done making excuses for you. I'm done trying to earn the basic kindness I should receive automatically. I'm done being invisible. Her patterns blazed with every color she could produce, a brilliant display of emotion that painted her entire body in light. These humans threw me a party because they're good people. They noticed me when you wouldn't. They celebrated me when you forgot I existed. They made me feel valued when you made me feel worthless. And if that embarrasses you, that's your problem, not mine. Valissa stared at her stepdaughter, clearly shocked by this new version of Zara who spoke her mind and stood her ground. I'm going to tell your father about this, Velissa said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Good, Zara said. Tell him. Tell him everything. Tell him about the party. Tell him how you forgot my birthday. Tell him how I finally spoke up about how you treat me. Maybe this time he'll actually listen. Velissa looked around the room at the humans standing with Zara, all of them watching her with expressions that ranged from disappointment to quiet disapproval. She was outnumbered, not in bodies but in righteousness. This conversation isn't over, Velissa said finally, moving toward the door. Yes it is, Zara replied. Because I'm done having it on your terms. Velissa left without another word, the door sliding shut behind her with a soft hiss. For a moment the room was silent. Then Zara's legs gave out and she sat down hard in one of the chairs, shaking from head to toe. Owen knelt beside her chair. You okay? Zara looked at him, at Carol, at Pete, at these kind humans who'd shown her what it meant to be truly seen and valued. I stood up to her, she whispered, amazed at herself. I actually stood up to her. You did, Owen said proudly. You were amazing. I couldn't have done it without you all here, Zara admitted. Knowing you believed I deserved better, it made me believe it too. 2 days after the confrontation with Velissa, Zara's father arrived at Frontier Station 7 unannounced. She was in the middle of her biology class when the message came through, asking her to meet him in the same conference room where she'd faced her stepmother. Zara's patterns flickered nervously as she walked through the corridors. She had no idea what Velissa had told him, what version of events he'd heard, or whether he'd believe his wife over his daughter again. When she entered the room, her father stood by the window looking out at the stars. He was a tall Kiksari, his patterns currently showing deep thoughtful purple mixed with troubled gray. He turned when he heard her enter. Zara, he said quietly. Sit down please. We need to talk. She sat, keeping her spine straight, her patterns controlled. She wouldn't apologize for standing up for herself. She wouldn't take back the truth she'd finally spoken. Her father sat across from her and for a long moment he just looked at her. Really looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time in years. Velissa told me what happened, he began. She told me about the party. About the humans. About the things you said to her. Zara waited, barely breathing. And then, her father continued, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I called the station administrator and asked to see security footage of our family visits here. I asked to speak with your instructors about how you've been doing. I looked at your communication logs to see how often Velissa and I have actually contacted you. His patterns shifted darker, ashamed. I haven't been paying attention, he said, his voice cracking. I've been so focused on my work, so grateful to have found companionship again after your mother died, so eager to believe everything was fine. I stopped looking at you. Really looking at you. Zara felt tears building behind her eyes but held them back. Your instructor told me you've been at the top of your class for 2 years, her father said. I didn't know that. She told me you won the regional science competition last year. I don't remember you telling me. Did you? I tried, Zara whispered. You were leaving for a conference. You said we'd celebrate when you got back. But when you came back, Velissa's son had gotten an award at his school, and we celebrated that instead. You forgot about mine. Her father's patterns went almost completely gray, shame and regret. I looked at the communication logs, he continued. In the past year I've sent you 12 messages. Well, and Velissa has sent you 3, all of them about schedule changes or practical matters. But I looked at your friends' logs, these humans you've befriended, they message you almost every day. They care about me, Zara said simply. They notice when I'm sad or happy or stressed. They remember things I tell them. They make me feel like I matter. You do matter, her father said urgently, leaning forward. You're my daughter. You're the most important thing in my life. Then why don't I feel like it? Zara asked, and the pain in her voice was raw and real. Why do strangers treat me better than my own family? Why did it take humans throwing me a birthday party for you to notice something was wrong? Her father was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with truth he could no longer avoid. Because I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid to see it. Afraid to face that I'd made a mistake in bonding with Velissa so quickly. Afraid to admit that in trying to heal my own loneliness, I'd abandoned you to yours. It was easier to believe everything was fine than to confront the truth. Well, now you know the truth, Zara said. What are you going to do about it? Her father looked at her with patterns that showed both determination and uncertainty. I don't know, he said honestly. I can't fix 3 years of neglect with one conversation. I can't undo the hurt you've experienced. But I can start listening. Really listening. And I can stop hiding from what I see. It wasn't a grand promise. It wasn't a dramatic solution. But it was honest and it was a start. I need you to tell me everything, her father said. Not just about Velissa but about you. Your life, your dreams, your friends, your accomplishments, your struggles. I want to know my daughter again. If you'll let me. Zara looked at her father, this person she'd loved her whole life, who'd been physically present but emotionally absent for so long. Could she trust him again? Could she open up and risk being ignored once more? But then she thought about Owen, about Carol and Pete and all the other humans who'd shown her what it meant to be truly seen. They'd taught her that she deserved better. Maybe it was time to demand it from her own father too. Okay, she said. But this time you have to really listen. Not just hear words and forget them the next day. Actually listen and remember and care. I will, her father promised. I swear it. And they talked. For 3 hours they talked. Zara told him everything, every forgotten birthday, every dismissive comment from Velissa, every time she'd felt invisible in her own family. And her father listened, really listened, his patterns growing darker with shame and regret as he understood how badly he'd failed her. Healing didn't happen overnight. Her father's relationship with Velissa became strained as he confronted her about her treatment of Zara. There were difficult conversations, family counseling sessions, boundaries that had to be set. Sometimes Zara wondered if it would have been easier if her father had just chosen not to see. But slowly things began to change. Her father started calling her every other day just to talk. He attended her academic presentations. He asked about her human friends and actually listened to her answers. He began showing up in her life in ways that mattered. Meanwhile, Zara's friendship with the humans of Frontier Station 7 deepened. Owen had indeed established a tradition. Every year on her hatching day there would be a party. But more than that, they'd become her chosen family. Other young aliens on the station noticed Zara's transformation. A shy Krillian boy who'd been struggling with homesickness approached her one day and asked how she'd learned to speak up for herself. A young Voshan girl dealing with similar stepfamily issues asked if the humans might help her too. Zara found herself becoming a bridge between species, introducing struggling young beings to the humans who'd saved her. And the humans, true to form, opened their hearts to each new person who needed them. 1 year after that first birthday party, Zara stood in Community Room 7 once again, surrounded by decorations and laughter and love. The room was even more crowded this time, not just humans but aliens of a dozen different species, all people she'd befriended over the year. Owen appeared beside her with a slice of cake. Happy birthday, Zara. 17 cycles old. How does it feel? It feels good, Zara said, her patterns glowing with peaceful blue and happy gold. It feels right. The door opened and Zara's father walked in. He'd asked if he could attend this year, and Zara had nervously agreed. She watched as he looked around the room, seeing the family his daughter had built, the humans who'd done what he'd failed to do. Owen noticed him too and walked over, extending his hand in the human greeting gesture. You must be Zara's father. I'm Owen. Thank you for coming. Zara's father clasped Owen's hand, his patterns showing deep respect and gratitude. Thank you, her father said quietly. Thank you for seeing my daughter when I was too blind to look. Thank you for showing her what she deserves. Thank you for giving her back her voice. We didn't give her anything, Owen said, glancing back at Zara with a smile. We just reminded her of what she already had. She did the rest herself. Zara watched her father move through the party, meeting her friends, seeing her laugh and dance and glow with genuine happiness. She saw the moment it truly hit him, the realization of how close he'd come to losing her completely, and how lucky he was that these humans had cared enough to intervene. Later, as the party wound down, her father approached her. His patterns were humble, grateful, and sad all at once. I understand now, he said quietly. I understand what I almost destroyed. And I understand what these humans gave you. What did they give me? Zara asked. They listened, her father said simply. When you whispered that you'd been forgotten, they heard you. That's all it took. Someone willing to actually listen. Zara smiled, looking around at Owen and Carol and Pete and all the others who'd become her family. That's all it ever takes, she said. Someone who cares enough to hear. Her father pulled her into a hug, holding her tight in a way he hadn't in years. I'm listening now, he whispered. I promise I'm listening now. And for the first time in a very long time, Zara believed him. Around them, the party continued, humans and aliens celebrating together, bridging gaps between species with the simplest and most powerful tool in the universe, genuine compassion. And at the center of it all was a young Kiksari girl who'd learned that being heard was the first step toward being whole. The humans of Frontier Station 7 had shown her that truth. And in doing so, they changed not just her life, but her father's understanding, and created ripples that would spread to countless others who just needed someone to listen. Because that's what humans did best. They listened. They cared. They remembered. And sometimes, that simple act was enough to change everything.